She was already a tennis prodigy, a rising star known across the world, but in her own country, she was seen as a risk. The government praised her talent, yet banned her from traveling. This is the story of Martina Navratilova, the champion who had to fight not just for titles, but for her freedom. Why was she denied entry to Wimbledon in 1974? How did her fierce rivalry with Chris Evert turn into a lifelong friendship? And what's life like after becoming the most decorated tennis player in history? Hit that subscribe button to follow more unbelievable stories from Czech history. Like, share, and turn on notifications, because on Check This Story, we bring legends to life. It was October 18, 1956, in a small town near Prague, Czechoslovakia, when a future sports legend took her first breath. Martina Navratilova was born into a world that had no idea what she would accomplish. Her mother, an accomplished athlete, instilled in her an early love for sports. But it was tennis that captured young Martina's heart. At the age of 4, she picked up her first racket, and by 7, she was already showing signs of a prodigy.
Navratilova, tenis jsem začala hrát, když mi bylo 5 let. Nyní je mi 17, takže jsem to hrála asi 12 let.
Trained by her stepfather, she quickly outgrew local competitions. The communist regime in Czechoslovakia, however, had strict rules about international competition, making it difficult for young talents like her to flourish on the world stage. Growing up in Cold War-era Czechoslovakia meant living under strict government control. Freedom of speech was limited, travel was nearly impossible without government approval, and sports were highly politicized. For Martina, this was more than just an inconvenience, it was a barrier to her dreams. The Czech government controlled athletes' careers, deciding when and where they could compete. She was frequently denied travel permits, preventing her from participating in key international tournaments. There were also instances where officials limited her access to training resources, fearing that she might become too independent. In 1973, at just 16, she played in the French Open but was not allowed to travel to the United States for additional training.
And I played, and I beat Nancy Ritchie on court 2, and then I lost to Ivan Gulagal on court 2 in the quarters. Had set points actually, but didn't win a set. It was my first loss here, and I never played her here again. It was a big hurdle, and just loved her. She's so sweet and so much fun to watch, just makes it look so easy. I'm like, why can't I be as graceful as she is?
Her frustration grew as she watched Western players improve while she remained restricted by politics. One of the most painful moments came in 1974, when Martina desperately wanted to compete at Wimbledon. But the communist regime held tight control over international travel, especially to Western countries. Despite being one of the most promising young players in the world, the Czechoslovak government denied her a travel visa, fearing she might defect or be too exposed to Western influence. So while her rivals took the court at Wimbledon, Martina could only watch from afar, her dreams stalled not by injury or skill, but by politics.
Well, I wanted to win Wimbledon, and maybe later wanted to be #1, but Wimbledon was the big thing, not to be #1, because there really was no ranking system actually back then. So it was, I knew that tennis was my way out of the country, but that was not the driving force. I really loved the sport, always loved the sport, you know. There was never a day where I didn't want to play. As Billie Jean King said, you know, I've never seen the ball come over the net the same way twice. There's always something different about each moment. So it keeps you coming back.
That moment didn't break her, it lit a fire inside. She knew she had to find a way out. In 1975, at the US Open, Martina made the boldest move of her life. She defected to the United States, seeking political asylum. She was just 18 years old at that time. It was a heart-wrenching decision. She knew she might not see her family for years.
You have to get the visa to get out of the country, and actually in '75 I played Wimbledon, and my family came. The whole family was out of the country at the same time. We could have defected then. Looking back, I think I wish we had, because we would have had the family together. Because it was after that, when I got back that summer, that the federation said, we're not going to let you go play the US Open, which is 2 months later. So finally, a week before, they said, okay, we'll let you go. Jan Kodeš, who was the top Czech tennis player and a good friend, talked to the federation and said, please let her go. She's one of the top players in the world. You have to let her go. So they did, and it was at that time, at that moment, that I knew I wouldn't come back, because I couldn't live with not knowing if I get to go out again.
Her Czech citizenship was revoked, and she became a stateless person until she gained U.S. citizenship in 1981. The political consequences were severe. Her name was erased from Czechoslovakian sports history, and state-controlled media portrayed her as a traitor. Once in the United States, Martina could finally focus on her game without restrictions. But she faced another challenge, adapting to an entirely new culture and learning English while competing against the best players in the world.
I loved America. The first time I stepped foot in Fort Lauderdale was the first tournament I ever played. Loved it. Everything about it, the palm trees and the fat ham sandwiches and the cars.
Her early career was marked by talent but also inconsistency. She had power and agility, but her emotions sometimes got the better of her on the court. It wasn't until she worked with basketball player Nancy Lieberman on her fitness and mental toughness that she transformed into a near-invincible force. Her first major breakthrough came in 1978 when she won her first Grand Slam title at Wimbledon, defeating Chris Evert. This victory was the beginning of a legendary rivalry that would define women's tennis for decades. Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova's rivalry became one of the most iconic in sports history. Evert, known for her calm and steady baseline game, was the perfect counter to Martina's aggressive serve and volley style. They faced each other 80 times, with Martina holding a slight edge in wins, 43-37.
So I had to really specifically train for her. I don't mean train physically, but practice. Specific shots, specific strategy. And when it comes to fruition, when you finally get to play and it works, you can execute and end up winning. That's what makes it really special.
One of their most intense matches was the 1985 French Open final, where Evert outlasted Navratilova in a grueling three-set battle, reclaiming the Roland Garros title after Martina had beaten her in the final the previous 2 years.
Well, I think I've had some matches where I felt I hit more great shots, but I think this probably was the most solid match I ever played. Most error-free match that I ever played, probably.
However, the tables turned at Wimbledon later that year, where Martina triumphed over Evert in another classic final. At first, Martina and Chris couldn't have been more different, both on and off the court. Martina was powerful, athletic, emotional. Chris was graceful, precise, cool-head. Martina, defector from communist Czechoslovakia. Chris, all-American girl from Florida. But they pushed each other to greatness. They competed like warriors. They evolved like sisters. Despite their fierce competition, the two developed a deep friendship over the years. Evert once said, "Martina brought out the best in me, and I hope I did the same for her." From the late 1970s through the 1980s, Martina dominated women's tennis. With an aggressive serve and volley style, she won 18 Grand Slam singles titles, including a record 9 Wimbledon titles, 31 Grand Slam doubles titles, and 10 Grand Slam mixed doubles titles. 4 U.S. Open singles titles. 2 French Open titles. Her battles with Evert pushed both athletes to new heights and defined an era of women's tennis. Beyond the tennis court, Martina was a trailblazer in many ways. She became one of the first high-profile athletes to come out as gay, a decision that cost her sponsorships but made her an icon for LGBTQ+ rights. In an era when few dared to be open about their sexuality, Martina stood firm, using her platform to advocate for equality. 1981, she publicly came out in an interview with the New York Times, a move that was met with both admiration and backlash. Some sponsors dropped her, but her fans and fellow athletes supported her courage. Her personal life was often under public scrutiny, but she never backed down from being herself. She had several high-profile relationships and eventually found lasting love with Julia Lemagova, whom she married in 2014. Julia Lemagova is a former Miss USSR and an entrepreneur. The couple's marriage marked a significant moment as it was one of the first openly same-sex marriages in the world of professional sports. She supports various animal welfare organizations and has been outspoken about issues related to cruelty against animals. She's also a fan of dogs, often sharing her love for pets. Martina officially retired from singles tennis in 1994, but she never truly left the sport. She continued competing in doubles until she was nearly 50, proving that age was just a number. Off the court, she became a commentator, coach, and activist. She worked with young players, helped charities, and spoke out about issues close to her heart: LGBTQ+ rights, animal welfare, and politics. She even made appearances on TV shows, showing her fun-loving and outspoken personality.
I mean, again, Czechoslovakia, gay people were, put into insane asylum. Women were kind of discounted. So it was definitely a bad thing to be that. So when my dad found out, for a couple of years we had a tough relationship, but he educated himself. He read books about it and, came to me without me saying anything. He says, I realized it's nothing to do with me, nothing to do with you. This is who you are, and I just want you to be happy.
One of her biggest moments post-retirement came in 2000 when she was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame, a fitting tribute to her legendary career.
My father learned everything from him and then coached me. I'd like to thank Vera Sukova and other people in old Czechoslovakia for giving me endless hours of their time and their knowledge. I'd like to thank Jan Kodesh, who is sitting here behind me, for two things. Great inspiration. My very first Wimbledon in 1973, I got to the finals of juniors, and I watched Jan Kodesh win the whole thing, so that was pretty amazing. Not bad for a first Wimbledon. Thank you for that, and most of all, thank you for intervening with the Czech Federation and allowing me to get out of Czechoslovakia in 1975. When you start playing tennis, you hope you win Wimbledon, you hope you win some tournaments or make a mark, but the Hall of Fame, that's not something that even comes into your head. So it is an overwhelming honor for me to be here, to be able to share it with my mom, who suffered for many, many years of me being there and my years of not being there. It's been a long process, and it's not the winning or the losing. That's the bottom line. The bottom line is really staying in the moment, enjoying the process, and enjoying the game of tennis, which is just an amazing gift to all of us.
Now in her late 60s, Martina remains an influential voice in the world of tennis and beyond. She frequently comments on matches, sharing her insights and wit with audiences worldwide. She also stays active, playing exhibition matches and keeping up with fitness. More importantly, she continues to fight for what she believes in. Whether it's speaking out about equality, health, or sports, Martina Navratilova remains a force of nature, a woman who refused to be limited by borders, expectations, or conventions. Even long after retiring from professional tennis, Martina Navratilova never stopped fighting, only the opponents changed. In January 2023, Martina revealed that she had been diagnosed with 2 forms of cancer at the same time: throat cancer and early-stage breast cancer. It was a shocking double diagnosis that could have brought anyone to their knees, but not Martina. She described the moment as a double whammy, admitting it was one of the toughest challenges she'd ever faced. But just like she did on the court, she faced it head-on, with discipline, courage, and resilience. Martina underwent radiation and chemotherapy, and by March 2023, she shared the incredible news: she was cancer-free. The tennis world, and the wider world, breathed a collective sigh of relief. Her story became a reminder that even the strongest among us are vulnerable, but also that strength isn't about being unbreakable, it's about refusing to give up. Even while undergoing treatment, Martina remained active, continuing her advocacy work and staying in touch with fans. And once again, she used her experience to raise awareness about regular screenings, early detection, and speaking openly about health.
The first one was diagnosed with throat cancer. And then when they were looking to see exactly where it was, that's when they found the lump on my breast as well. So I'm like, and I knew it was cancer because that's the only way it lit up on the MRI. But I have been very diligent about the screenings since that first time around 13 years ago. And and because of that, I caught it early, both of them. Got it early because I paid attention. So that's why I want to talk about it, because I want women to pay attention to their bodies. We take care of everybody else. Yeah. Take care of the animals. When you get the card that the dog needs to get the rabies vaccination, we take them tomorrow. We get the card about breast cancer, mammogram, and I'll do it, later. And
how are you feeling? How are you doing?
Well, finally feeling like I can go to the gym. I've really been, physically, it's been really, really rough. The hardest thing I've ever gone through, needless to say. And I almost get PTSD when I come to New York because the 7 week treatment was here. And it was both, I had 2 cancers at the same time. So it was, it was very trying.
Her story is not just about tennis. It's about courage, transformation, and breaking barriers. From a young girl in communist Czechoslovakia to a global sports icon, Martina Navratilova's legacy is one of resilience and triumph. If there's one thing Martina's life teaches us, it's that champions aren't just made on the court. They are made through courage, determination, and the willingness to stand up for what they believe in. Stories like Martina's remind us, greatness isn't given. It's earned, point by point, fight by fight. If you believe in the power of courage and the beauty of untold stories, then join us. Sparkle subscribe to check this story, because legends don't just live in books, they live on this channel.